Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Inside IIM's Industry Paathshaala, a live webinar series that aims to bring the world of business closer to young India. We now know that we kept you waiting till the end of this week, but I can assure you that today's session would be worth every bit of the wait. Today, we are glad to have with us someone who I'm sure we all follow on LinkedIn religiously, Mr. Sampark Sachdeva, sales and marketing coach, who was rated as one of the top 100 marketing and sales executives in India in a study by Oracle and Paul Writer in 2019. Over the last 10 years, Sampark has worked with some of the biggest brands in the country, Asian Paints, Ola Cabs, and OYO, leading various teams across geographies and genres. And as we all know, Sampark won the LinkedIn Spotlight Award in 2019 and now is also a LinkedIn Growth Advisor to some of the top CXOs in the country. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Mr. Sampark Sachdeva here. Hi Sampark, welcome to our show.
Hi, Shivangi. Thank you so much.
So Sampark, before we get into the subject today, please do tell us from your experience, how did you see brand marketing evolve on platforms like LinkedIn especially?
See, for LinkedIn, a lot of people over the years have assumed it to be a job search platform. A lot of them have assumed it's only a sales platform. But be it for the brand as the organization or the brand as the individual, it's a very good place to build networks. It's a very good place to get in touch with that many more number of people. If you're a brand, you can talk about investors, you can talk about partners, you can talk about branches, franchisees, employer branding, attracting right kind of talent, etc. So that way LinkedIn is a very, very important platform. From a personal front also, a recruiter or I would say a client may or may not check your Instagram, may or may not check your Facebook or Twitter, but they will surely check your LinkedIn. And that's where LinkedIn becomes that strong genre that you need to be very, very strong at. And that's something that over the years, last 5 years, I've been very, very active on the platform. So besides my sales marketing job that I used to do full time, LinkedIn was a very close to my heart kind of a thing that I've done for the last 5 years.
Yes, Sampark. So I just wanted to know from a brand perspective and from a company's perspective, how did you see these marketing campaigns change on LinkedIn?
See, so if you talk specifically about LinkedIn, LinkedIn does not have as much of a paid marketing space as a Facebook or an Instagram, because the ads on LinkedIn are much, much costlier than the other platforms. So while a Facebook, Instagram would be around a 10-15 rupees per click, LinkedIn is close to almost 10 times that. So you don't have paid marketing as such, but it's a very important place for brands to, if your product is a B2B product or a SaaS product, it's a very good place to reach out to the right kind of customers. It's a very good place to do content marketing. It's a very good place to build that curiosity around your brand, because that's only one of the last few platforms which still has, I would say, organic reach. So that way it is very, very strong. Yeah.
Definitely, Sampark. Thanks a lot for your insights. I'm sure it must have set the context of the topic we are going to be discussing in this evening. So without wasting any second, Sampark, let's get into the presentation today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So, hi, everyone. It's great to be amongst all of you. And if you're watching on YouTube, just give me a thumbs up in the chat. It would be really, really grateful to make it interactive. I have the YouTube chat open for me beside me. So feel free to throw in your questions. Feel free to make it a lot more interactive. I would not want it to be very, very boring. So let me just share my screen and then we can kick off. So if you are on YouTube, just give me a thumbs up and we can kickstart. I hope my screen is visible. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for making it here on a Friday evening. Now the lockdown is open. All of you could have been outside, but thank you for being here. Over the next 35 odd minutes, we will cover a lot of things from my journey in startups, what works in marketing, what does not work, taking into consideration that startups have a particular constraint as well. So we will go through my tips and my experiences across. In the meantime, feel free to throw in your questions in the chat box. Once we finish this, I will be happy to take all your questions towards the end. So let's jump right in. Your first question will be, who is Sampark? Uh, while Shivangi's been very kind to give her introduction, I would just take a couple of minutes to give you a little bit of brief about my background and how I've reached here. I come with 11 years of corporate experience. In this journey, I started with Asian Paints. I was with Asian Paints for close to 5 years. Uh, I handled various geographies. I handled channel sales for them. I handled institutional sales for them. And then I eventually handled a services role for them as well. 2015, when the whole country almost got bitten by the startup bug, was where I jumped into Ola. So Ola, I was initially handling marketing for Calcutta. Then I was handling marketing for East as well. Then for a period, I was handling their marketing for all their tier 3 markets. So all your Gaya and Aurangabad and Madurai, Trichy, Amritsar, Ludhiana. I was handling marketing for all those markets. And then eventually I was leading Bombay for Ola. That when I talk about marketing from an Ola perspective, it included everything from ATL, BTL, all the communication that you got, all the discounts that you got, all the contests that you got, etc. So the whole demand side for the brand in the particular markets that I was handling. And last couple of years, I was with OYO. I was leading the sales team initially. So I was leading a 220 member team for the Bombay market. And then I was handling their corporate events vertical for the entire West. So, and in this journey of sales and marketing, I was rated as one of the top 100 marketing and sales professionals in 2019. That was a study by Paul Reiter and Oracle. So that was my corporate journey. Besides that, I've been very, very active on LinkedIn. I've been one of the top 14 content creators on LinkedIn, over 80,000 organic followers on the platform, over 40 million views on my content. And now I'm running my own consultancy around sales, marketing, personal branding, etc. So trained over 15,000 people over the last 1 year across the top colleges in the country, across the top organizations, and across various countries in the world. So a few more glimpses of the sessions that I have been taking. Now, let's jump right into the topic of marketing for startups. Now, if you are a startup owner or a budding startup owner, the biggest constraint any startup has when you're talking from a marketing perspective is limited resources and funds. You don't have a plethora of money. You don't have flowing cash, etc., where you can throw money and get your results. So resources are limited, funds are limited. But with these very limited resources that are there, you need to ensure that your marketing is cost effective, and you need to ensure that your marketing is far reaching. So you need the best bang of your buck in terms of uh, how much can you generate out of the small resource or the limited resources that you have. So every time when you're doing this, please make sure that you keep this thing in mind, that it should be cost effective, far reaching, and it fulfills the two objectives for startups. The two objectives at this stage when you're starting brand new is, one, you need to spread awareness. You need to have people get to know about your brand, and you need new customers. So awareness and new customer acquisition, very, very important at this stage of your journey, of your startup journey. So whenever you're doing a marketing activity, the first thing you need to calculate is your customer acquisition cost. So while most of you, I understand, would understand customer acquisition cost, but I'll explain the same with an example here. What is customer acquisition cost? So suppose you plan to do an activity in a mall. I know with COVID, mall activities, etc., have reduced a bit, but I'll show you an example of you sitting as a marketing manager or the founder of the company and deciding, should I do an activity inside a mall, or should I do an activity outside a mall? So when you're talking about a mall activity, you have the whole setup, you have a lot of glamour, you have a lot of glitz around there. And then you talk about a marketing activity just outside the mall with a small kiosk with I would say standees, etc. Now you sit and you start calculating your customer acquisition cost. Inside, if you do it, suppose your permissions are 50,000, your setup, your operations are another 50,000, and you acquire 125 customers per day. Your customer acquisition cost is 800 rupees. Now, if I compare it to the same thing outside, you're talking about a total cost of only 15,000, because obviously you just need the municipal or the government permissions to do an activity there. You might acquire lesser customers, but if you look at your customer acquisition cost, it is way lower. So a lot of people get thrown away by the kind of glamour and how does it look, etc. But at the stage of your consumer journey or your startup journey that you are at, you need to be very uh, focused on the kind of money that you're spending and what's your customer acquisition cost. So of the two, even though one looks very good, your customer acquisition cost from the other one is comparatively lower. So always calculate that customer acquisition cost. So irrespective of you doing ATL, irrespective of you doing BTL, please ensure that you calculate the CAC. Okay, now let's jump in, and I have 10 tips for you guys to focus on. What are the things that you need to focus on when you're talking from a startup perspective? And these are a lot of experiences that I bring from my Ola and OYO days, and I'm going to share those experiences with you. The first thing that each of you need to focus on when we're talking about marketing is be where your customers are. Okay, now don't go anywhere and everywhere. First, decide what kind of a product are you selling. You need to build your buyer persona. Now, what is a buyer persona? If you are marketing students, you will understand. You need to create the persona of your ideal customer. So what age group is it? What demographic is the customer at? In that demographic, what are the general places that you find him hanging out? What kind of car does he drive? What kind of education level does he have? What are the other products that he uses? So when you create a buyer persona, you understand your consumer very well. And when you understand your consumer very well, then you plan accordingly on how should you go and target him in this customer journey. Now, understand, is your product a B2B product or a B2C product? If your customer is a B2B product, you don't need to go into mass marketing, you don't need to go into hoardings, ATL, etc. For a B2B product, you can use platforms like LinkedIn and specific, and you can set up a sales team there. For a B2C, similar. So you really need to understand where is that customer there. In a B2C product as well, you need to understand, is it a masses product or is it a classes product? If your product is ultra luxury, putting ads up in local trains would work. If your product is masses, then putting up your ads in ultra luxury collaborations, tie-ups, etc. So sit down with your marketing team, sit down with your core team, and understand where is your consumer and target that consumer accordingly. Do not spray and hit. So if you go about spraying and hitting, you will never hit it. All you need to do is, like a sniper, sit there, and a headshot should be done to ensure that you hit your customer where he is. So that's where, first point, you need to be understanding where your customers are. Second point, and a very important point that I've experienced over a lot of my marketing journey, is using barter. Okay, now there are 2 points. Point number 2, point number 3, both will be about barter. Point number 2, when we're talking about sponsorships. Understand that sponsorships, a lot of people assume, array, sponsorships are very costly. Array, how can we do that? It will be a lot of cash flow. Sponsorships, it does not mean cash flow. In my tenure, I have done over 100 college fests. Not even one was with a cash payment. All of them were absolute barters. Now, how do you use barter? You pay them in kind. Okay, now if I when I was with Ola, we would give them ride vouchers. How can ride vouchers be used? When they are setting up their college fest, etc., they need to travel. It helps them save their cost. If you're paying them in kind, that can also be used as prize money. So the winner gets 1,000 rupees rides from Ola, etc. What happens is, you pay them in kind, and that whatever amount that you're paying actually gets consumed in your product itself. So actually there is no cash flow. And you can work out on a lot of deals. You can get logo presence. Okay, that's comparatively smaller, but in addition, you can talk about number of banners, number of ads across campuses, etc. You can talk about download campaigns. You can talk about setting up a kiosk where you can acquire new customers, and you can sponsor particular events as well. Now, basis what your product is. If your target audience is students, you can look at college events or fests. If your target audience is corporates, then you can look at corporate events, conferences, seminars, etc. But look at a barter option. It works. Where people get thrown off the track is because when the barter initial pitch comes in, it talks about gold sponsorship 1 lakh rupees, silver sponsorship 50,000 rupees. One, those are rack rates. You can always negotiate on them. Second, push them onto barter, and trust me, they work. I'll give you an example where I'd given a code or a discount code for their consumers, and I got title sponsorship also out of one of those colleges. So it's fairly very simple. Use barter very well, right? And guys, keep giving me a thumbs up in the chat box so that I know you are understanding, if you like the points, so that it does not become a monologue as well. So that's point number 2 of using barter for sponsorships. Now, the third point, which is again a continuation of barter, is about cross branding. Tie up with other brands and promote each other in the form of cross branding. Again, you do not need to be paying too much. It is absolutely a cross branding in form of kind. Okay, I put up 2 examples on the screen. Okay, one is about Ola, you ride and win, you win holy party passes. So what happens is the partner gives us passes to a party for the event, etc. We do a campaign for our consumers in terms of as Ola. For the brand like Ola, it is more about customer engagement. It helps to push up the frequency, etc. For the other brand, what it gets visibility for their event as well, which helps them in selling their product. On the other end, for the party there, they help Ola get more a kiosk set up so that they can get rides out of the event, etc. So it's a win-win situation for both the brands. If you look at the other example as well of Lay's tying up with Airtel, while we don't know what their tie-up is, but it's a very good option of Lay's being a very established brand promoting Airtel, which is another established brand, and that can be used for startups as well. For Lay's, their consumers think that, okay, tying up with Airtel has, because they were consuming Lay's, they were able to get 2 GB data free. And for Airtel, it's more like a new customer acquisition campaign where people who are not using Airtel also feel, "Arey yaar, if I was with Airtel, I would have been able to get data free." And today, with the whole thing around data, it's a very good option to cross brand. A question that I get in a lot of sessions such as this that I do, people ask me, if I'm a startup, why will a much bigger brand tie up? So even if you don't go at the much bigger brand, similar startups in other genres, which may not be your competitors, will be more than happy to cross brand. It also helps you build relationships up. It also helps you build collaborations up. You can also talk about API integrations. You can talk about their presence on your app. You can run contests together. You can run joint bundling offers, etc. So use cross branding well. It's again a very powerful tool. It does not cost too much. So that's the part of barter. Trust me, it has worked wonders for me in the brands that I have worked with, between sponsorships and cross branding. As marketing teams, you generally would not get too much of budgets to spend. So between this, I would have done, at least in the last 5 years, I would have done at least 150 barter campaigns, which have helped a lot in, one, customer acquisition, second, repeat purchases of customers, and also reactivation of inactive consumers. So that's the barter option. Now coming to the fourth point. Fourth point is about using established platforms. When you are new, you need to spend a lot to get your initial set of customers. You need to spend a lot from a customer acquisition point of view. So use established platforms. And when I say established platforms, very clear examples like Amazon or a Flipkart or a Zomato or a Swiggy. So if your product is such which you can sell on Amazon, initially feel free to go and sell on Amazon. A lot of these platforms do not have fixed costs there. So the moment you go there, if sale happens, you pay them a share of it. If sale does not happen, it does not cost you. Now suppose you are a manufacturer of mugs, okay, it is very difficult for you to build your initial set of consumers, but hundreds and thousands of people go to Amazon saying, "Arey, I need to buy a gift. Let me browse. What can I buy?" And organically, you might have a lot more traffic coming onto your platform. You might have a lot of organic sales coming in. Uh, Also, when you're talking about if you are in the F&B space, F&B space, you can talk about Zomato, Swiggy. If you have a restaurant, piggyback on them. If you are something like into events, piggyback on a product like Book My Show. That helps you get your first 100, 200, first 1,000 customers. Once your product starts going out, it builds your brand, I would say brand recall there, because people start consuming a product and then the word of mouth starts flowing. So use brands, use established platforms to get your initial 1,000 customers, and that will go a long way. And even with brands like Amazon, Flipkart, I've seen a load of startups building their complete business across other platforms. So it's always good. Now coming to the fifth part here, which is about just keep, yeah, use affordable, cost effective mediums. Now when you're talking about advertising, a lot of people are under the impression that advertising is very costly. Now what I want some of you to do in the live chat is, if I ask you what is the amount that somebody has to pay for a full page newspaper ad in a metro, I'll take a 10-20 second break here. I will want you to go into the live chat and tell me how much does a newspaper ad cost when you do a full page ad once. Let's have a few answers in the live chat if you can. Uh, it'll make this a little interesting, and let's see how many people can guess that. A newspaper ad, a newspaper ad, a full page ad costs nothing less than 15 to 20 lakhs for a one time if you're doing out of a metro. So if a Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta kind of, or a Bangalore kind of a market, you pay around 15 to 20 lakhs for a one time ad. Now that's how costly ATL is. If you talk about a lot of hoardings, etc., they cost nothing less than 30 to 50,000, even 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, basis their location and their size. So a lot of ATL is very costly. You can look at a lot of affordable, cost-effective mediums to get yourself kickstarted immediately. Now, what are the options? You can talk about chai tapri branding, teacups. I'll show you all the photographs and I'll explain to you. Teacups, okay? Now, uh, that's one. You can talk about tray mats in food courts, etc. You can talk about stickers on newspapers. You can talk about chai point branding. Now, if I tell you uh, the chai point branding that you see on the bottom right, uh, that's something that we've used extensively across where our consumers are. So if your consumers are office goers, there are chai points outside it. Go ahead, brand it up. You can put up a new board there. You can cover up the bottom there as well. For the chai point owner, for him, he's getting a completely new look. And what you can give him in exchange, you can give him branded chai cups as well. If you are giving him cups worth 2 months, it is an actual cost saving for them. So, and a lot of these cups, now there are a lot of startups who are running around cup branding, but the time that I'm talking about, that time you could do it, you could print them yourself, you could have a printer do it for you, and each cup costed not 30 to 40 paise per cup. So even if you are giving a chai point owner cups worth 2 months, you're not paying more than 10,000 rupees. You're getting the branding there done completely. You can brand up his menu card, you can brand up, you can put up danglers there, etc. So even in a maybe a 10,000 rupee expenditure kind of a thing, you're branding up multiple points outside exactly where your customer is. And then that branding stays. Okay, now you look at the tray mats. I've shown an example of McDonald's there, but a lot of these food courts, etc., use a lot of these tray mats, which you can absolutely brand. All your major cost is printing of that one single piece of paper and a little bit of the permission cost that you come in. It's much cost effective than a lot of other things that you go in. When you're talking about newspapers, as I said, doing a newspaper ad is 15 to 20 lakhs if you're doing it out of a metro. As a startup, your reach may not be to every part of the city anyways. You might be still in some parts of the city. Your target consumer might be limited to certain sections, etc. One option is you can talk about inserts. Second option is you can talk about stickers. Now, stickers, yes, you have to get up at 5 in the morning and go to where the newspaper distribution happens. They will paste your ad right at the top, which can just flip over. Now, if you talk about the kind of cost there, printing cost of these leaflets, etc., is barely maybe 20-30 paise per print, and putting it up is maybe another 30-40 paise per print. So in less than a rupee, you are reaching every customer hold. Even if you are reaching 10,000 holds, your spend is 10,000 rupees. So you do not have that disposable cash to spend. So use easier options, use affordable options, use cost-effective options. Trust me, this goes a long way when you are initially starting off. I have another consumer in my consulting business who's into health and fitness. Now, she's part of just one part of the city at the moment, and she went about doing a insert campaign across all the market, all the local areas. And trust me, she's been able to, at a spend of maybe 10,000 rupees, she's been able to generate revenue worth at least 4 or 5 lakh rupees just from that amount of expenditure. So that's the return of investment that affordable means can go in. A lot of you will say, Sampark, what about the brand, etc.? If you're using good quality material, if you're putting up good quality stuff there, the brand recall is there. And initially you have to get that ROI in terms of customer acquisition cost that we spoke about. So use affordable, cost-effective mediums to build your initial customer base up. So that's one. Now coming to the sixth part, which is about finding PR opportunities. Now, I'm not saying to utilize situations as such, but keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and you will get a lot of opportunity of helping people. And I'll give you 2 examples from my tenure at Ola. Ola had done 2 very campaigns which turned out to be massive social media hits because of the PR value there. One was the Ola boats, which ran during the Chennai floods. Second was the mobile ATMs that happened during the demonetization in 2016. Now, if you look at the Ola boats kind of a campaign, that was not something which was planned, and it actually started out as a social media joke where somebody said that now that the roads are flooded, Ola Cabs cannot come in, etc. And the marketing manager, again, who was a very close friend of mine, came up with this idea: if the cars can't go in, we'll put the boats in and we'll help people to get people out. When we put this out, this was, I think, one of the biggest social media hits of that year when this happened. Cost-wise did not happen much, but it's just about keeping your ears and eyes open. The second, when demonetization happened in November 2016, ATMs were running out of cash. People needed money. And that is when we approached a lot of banks and we said, we want to tie up with you. We put up mobile ATMs. The bank officials would be sitting in the cabs at different locations in the city. People could line up, come, swipe their card, take out cash. It was again a massive hit in terms of the kind of social media coverage that we got. There were so many people who came back and said, thanks for giving that opportunity to take out cash, because a lot of people at that time were very disturbed because ATMs were running out of cash and there was a daily limit that you could take out at. So again, from an expenditure wise, it was not much, but it's about looking out for opportunities when you find one and going ahead and capitalizing on it. So again, and this we've done at numerous times during other times of need where your customer needs help. And if you are there to help your consumers at times which are difficult, trust me, they come back. They come back in better times because they know that you stood by them when it mattered. And that brand equity goes a long way. So that's where look for opportunities, keep your eyes and ears open, and you will find uh, something for sure as a consumer. Now coming to seventh, and again, this is the thing of today, of having a strong digital media presence, of having digital marketing done, be it YouTube, be it LinkedIn, be it Instagram, be it Facebook, Snapchat, wherever your consumers are. Create your digital presence. This is a big miss if you don't do it at this stage, at a time where everybody is on digital media. Your data packs are cheaper with Geo coming in. The penetration of internet has gone through the roof, and the kind of videos consumption that is happening, go ahead, use content marketing, and it will go a long way. What you can do is you can run a lot of contests, you can run a lot of giveaways, you can put in a lot of testimonials, you can put up a lot of videos of how to do's. Again, if you build your brand well, the kind of response that you get is phenomenal. Now you look at a brand like Zomato, the kind of content marketing that they do, the kind of content that they put out is phenomenal. Their marketing team, and trust me, when you're putting it out through your own channels, uh, it's the kind of reach that you get, and the kind of uh, I would say the brand recall that you get. People look forward to messages such as that. So, and I will come back to the internal communications later. I'm talking focused on uh, the digital presence at the moment. Use all social media platforms. If you're a B2B product, you need to be on a platform like LinkedIn. If your customer base is between the age of 15 to 18, then you need to be on a Snapchat. If you are a mass product, you need to be on a Facebook, and YouTube is something that everybody is using. So again, coming to the first part that we talk about, be where your consumers are. Sit back, understand, and then ensure that you are there. Okay. On the second part, on the same digital presence, we're talking about digital marketing. Is the paid marketing genre out of it? Doing ads, again today with ads, etc. A lot of your students, you understand digital marketing, and you'll be studying out of it as well. With the kinds of ads, the kind of reach, the kind of targeting that you are able to do, you do not need to spray your money across. If 10 years back people had said that you had 1 lakh rupees to spend, you could not do that kind of targeted advertising. Today, you can be very targeted. You can retarget. You can target those consumers who came to your website, dropped off. You can target those consumers who were your consumers and now no longer are. So you have a lot of flexibility of being very specific of the consumers that you reach out to. So obviously, the probability of them converting is much higher. So the ROIs are better rather than the offline marketing that you look at. Second, even influencer marketing. Again, people are under the impression that influencer marketing is very costly. It is not. If you go to the big influencers with the 1 million or the 2 million followers, it is costly. But if you go to the macro and the micro or the nano influencers, the nano and the micro influencers, the cost is not very high. A lot of people are using smaller influencers to bring the brands up. Now, if I give you examples, a lot of brands in the cosmetic and the products, the skin products range have built their brands around influencer marketing. One very good example is Mama Earth. Mama Earth started off with a few influencers. Today, every vlogger, every YouTuber that you look at, the 2-3 brands that they promote very extensively are Mama Earth and Wow products. Even if you look at a lot of brands which are into headphones and speakers, etc., brands like Boat, brands like Mivi, brands like and the similar products in that genre are using influencer marketing very well. So, and trust me, a lot of micro influencers or nano influencers you can get at just on barter. One, where you give them the product and they will post about you. Second, a lot of them are barely at 300 to 500 rupees as well. I have a lot of people with maybe 10,000 or 12,000 followers on Instagram who do this for barter. There are a lot of brands which are into the food segment. So the new FMCG masales that have come, or some products like chips, etc., which just share their products. They send a hamper to these smaller influencers, and they get there. The point is, you do not need to spend. And with brands like Mivi, brands like Mama Earth, brands like Wow products, they have built their whole community around influencer, right? Now that takes me to the next uh, part, which is the eighth point, is about building a community, right? Build up a exclusivity. You need to build a community of your consumers, and trust me, it goes a long way. When 1+1 launched a few years back, and it was some 6 7 8 7 8 years back, they said that only if you have an invite you can buy the product. They build that exclusivity, and that trick is what Clubhouse is using today. Now, OnePlus, a lot of you will know, is the same manufacturers as Vivo and Oppo. But Vivo and Oppo have a perception of being mass products, whereas OnePlus has the perception of being a replacement for an iPhone. So if you can't afford an iPhone, the closest that you can get is a OnePlus. With the same manufacturing, the kind of perception that they've created is very, very different. And so for 1+1 and 1+2, they had this invite system, and they created a craze around. People genuinely looked, "Arey, do you have a OnePlus invite? Do you can you somehow arrange for it?" And with Clubhouse, which has just come out, Clubhouse is the new social media app. It is only there for iPhone users, and you need to have an invite. So again, it has built down that buzz of building a community, building a sense of exclusivity, making people feel that, okay, you are different, you're a part of a club. And that's from an invite perspective. Another very, very important part or an example of building a community is the Harley Davidson owners. So you have the Hog or the Harley owners group. People have that sense of belonging with the brand. People have that sense, okay, I am now part of that bigger community. So try building a community. As a startup owner, you have to realize that you don't have too much money to spend on marketing. Who can do marketing for you is your first set of consumers. They are your brand ambassadors. They are the people who are going to go give that word of mouth to consumers. So your first set of consumers, and eventually overall, try getting them all together, have them feel that sense of belonging with the brand, have them have that sense of attachment and being a part of a exclusive group, and that goes a long way. You can always use things like loyalty programs. Now, Jet Airways had shut down, but the kind of loyalty program that Jet Privilege had was exceptional. I have known so many people who were in corporate worlds who would find for flights out of Jet Airways because they needed Jet Privilege points. And the kind of build that they did, the kind of involvement that they did, the kind of attachment that people had to the brand was very, very strong. So always focus on that and see if you can build a community around them. Next, coming to point 9, which is about networking. Uh, Networking is initiating conversations. Okay. Now, if you are a B2B product, uh, look at an option like LinkedIn. You will find so much traction in the kind of people that you meet. Initiate conversations, build your personal brand as well, because as startup owners as well, that will again be something very, very important. And meet people for coffee. You don't know the power of networking. If you are sitting out of a co-working space as well, uh, talk to people. There are so many people who will be sitting there who will be in similar genres as you are. Go ahead and talk to them, meet them over coffee, use barter of services. And as you build up, trust me, now that I'm in my consultancy, the power of networking and the power of how I've been able to build my brand around on LinkedIn goes a long way of generating business. There have been numerous examples where I have met somebody, that person has recommended me to someone, that person has recommended to someone. If I build that tree up, there are meetings that I have done where I have generated lakhs of business originating out of one cup of coffee. So if you are in that business, it's very, very important to use platforms like LinkedIn, BNI, TIE, where you meet other B2B professionals, you meet other business owners, and you can go absolutely bonkers with the kind of networking that you are doing. So, and as people say, and somebody mentioned there as well, your network is your net worth, and that is genuinely true. Now, coming to the 10th part, okay, which is the final part of my tips for startups, is create regular touch points. Now, one, we talked about social media, but a lot of your consumers you have there are already registered on your sites, etc. You have their emails, you have their contact details. Between emails, notifications, in-apps, do that regular touch point. Wish them on their birthdays, wish them on their festivals, make them feel exclusive, have exclusive content for customers who are subscribed to you, etc. So you need to make those regular touch points. Your touch points do not need to be very, very big, but they need to be small but regular. One word of caution, do not go spamming your consumers. Okay. Also understand that, also make that regular touch points with consumers who were there and who are no longer there also. So somebody or consumers who registered but even did not pay up, but they are probable customers. They are customers who may not be your paying customers today, but they are your prospective target audience. So regularly touch point with them. You keep hitting them, and eventually it works out for you. So that's something which is very, very important. So that's all the points that we're talking about. So everything from using barter services, using being where your consumers are. If you're a B2B product, focus exactly where your consumers are. Use platforms like LinkedIn, use networking events to reach there. You can use conferences. A lot of now conferences are happening virtually, so you can do a lot of barter sponsorships virtually for conferences, meetings, etc. that are there. And strategic alliances are very, very important. You can, if you can talk about governments, you can talk about ministries, you can talk about associations. Use a lot of those alliances as well. Now, in addition, I'll give you 5 bonus pointers that you should keep a tab of as a startup owner. 1, discounts. Please, please, please do not pay your consumers to use your service. A lot of startups make the mistake of keep continuing to give discounts so that the customer stays. A lot of startups get in this thing of, I need to show my growth, I need to keep my valuation up, and that is your death knell. It is okay to give discounts to get customers to try your service. It is okay to give samples to initially get your customers on board. But if you have to pay them to keep using your service, then that is a disaster. Because the moment you will stop your discounts, your customer will switch. So please ensure that discounts are used for customer acquisition and not as a tool for retaining customers on your platform. Because in the long run, a lot of startups have just blown up. Brands like Taxi for Sure was there in the cab business. Tiny Owl was there in the food delivery business. All of them, despite so much investment in them, got shut down because they could not compete and they had to continue giving discounts and they burned out of cash. Okay. Second point, while marketing is important, what is most important is your quality of product or your service. Marketing is good. It is good to bring consumers to your platform. But what will keep your consumers running is your quality of your product. You need to very, very strongly focus on the quality as well. Because a lot of brands just keep pumping money, and if the product is not strong enough, eventually you will fail. So yes, marketing is important, but it does not supersede the quality of the product. Third, communication calendar. We spoke about it in the points, but please understand, do not spam your customer. A lot of brands go bonkers with the kind of SMSs and the notifications. There are a lot of consulting clients that I reached out to and I said, the first thing you need to do is stop spamming your customer. There are, when I've worked with brands, we worked on things like, okay, you can touch base with a customer thrice a week in forms of notification, but that does not mean 10 times a day. And a lot of brands do that. And the moment you do that, your customer will switch off the notifications. So the moment you overdo it, it becomes irritating and you lose your chance there. Also, segregate your customer. You have a lot of data points. Segregate your customer from the fact, how should you reach out to them? Now, suppose there is a customer who's already on the platform regularly using. At no point of time should your communication for a first user discount go to him. Now, if there is a customer who is using your premium service, at no point of time should the lower service be pitched to him. That is a mistake a lot of communicating marketers make there. So, sorry. So you need to be sure that you target your customer well. Now, if you're talking about that, okay, your product targets everybody from an 18-year-old to a 65-year-old, and you're talking about something about rock music, you can assume, or there's a hypothesis that 40 plus people may not be interested in it. So you have your demographics of your consumer targeted to the right set of customers, the right age group, the right genre, the right demographic. Do not send anything and everything to everybody, right? The fourth point, always have a call to action. Now, why is a call to action important? One, so that you can measure the result of it. If you're putting up an ad, you should have a call to action there. What can a call to action be? SMS XYZ to know more. At least you know the number of people who took action. Use this code to get your first free ride. You at least know how many customers did you acquire. And with everything going digital now, you have a lot of data points. Always have a call to action. It is very, very important, because without a call to action, you have no clue how is your activity or your marketing campaign done. So please ensure whatever you do, always have a call to action there. The fifth and the last point is use data well. The time of today where everything is digital, you have so many data points, and your data will give you a lot of answers. Trust me, if I go back into my Ola days, we have over 100 parameters to understand what kind of customer was he, how regularly does he use the service, does he use the premium service, does he use the affordable service, what time of the day does he come on, what day of the week does he come on, is he an online payment customer or a cash customer, does he how often does he use the service, what kind of places does he generally go to. If you talk from a Swiggy perspective, what restaurant is he regularly ordering from, what cuisine is he regularly ordering from, does he order on a weekend or a weekday. You have data answering so many questions, so you can plan your marketing accordingly. Now, if I talk from a Ola perspective, if I see that a customer is only using the brand on weekends when he's going out with family, I will campaign my tweak my campaign so that he starts using during the weekdays as well. If he's a economy product user, I will give him a sample of my premium product so that he at least uses that product once and then he gets hooked onto it. Data can give you a lot of answers. Never ignore it. Trust me, it works like magic. So all the points that I have mentioned across are something which you can use, are very, very affordable. Yes, it has to be a balance of data and human, your intuition, and that is where you as marketers would be sitting there analyzing the data. So that's very, very important. Also understand the marketing is very, very different in different geographies. So if you are sitting out of a metro, please don't assume that the same kind of marketing can be spoken about in tier 2 and tier 3 markets. That you please go down there, understand your customer, understand how and where you should reach him, and plan your marketing activities as well. A lot of marketers make this mistake that they have a blanket approach for every customer. Every product is different, every city is different, every usage is different. The customer using a brand in the metro will be very different from the customer using the same brand in a tier 2 market, will be a very different customer when he's using it in a rural market. So tweak your marketing basis your customer and geography. I will sign off here with this. Always remember, we are here to dent in the universe. We're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else are we even here? So go ahead. All the best for your startups that you're going to start up. And if anybody wants to get in touch, those are my contact details. I'm there. LinkedIn, I'm there. I'm there on Instagram as well. That's my website as well. And put in all your questions. I will be very, very happy to answer any of them. Shivangi, all yours.
Thanks a lot, Sampark. So, Sampark, we have some really interesting questions from the chat that we can take up right now.
Right.
Akansh has asked us, what are your tips for B2B marketing?
So again, when you're talking about B2B marketing, use platforms which are B2B. So a platform like LinkedIn becomes very, very important. Also then start looking at where is your consumer going to be. So if you're talking about any B2B conferences that happen, so physically, while it is not happening, it is happening virtually. So you have virtual exhibitions happening there, you have virtual branding happening there, you can reach out to your consumers there. uh, Digital marketing is again very, very important. uh, Paid marketing, so you spoke about LinkedIn initially in terms of marketing there. Again, that's a good platform. So again, go back from a B2B perspective also, understand where your consumers are, put up an inside sales team also, which can reach out to people, help them, etc. And I think that should be very, very good from a B2B marketing perspective.
Thanks a lot, Sampark. So the next question that we had was from Atul. So Atul has asked us how to make ads for hyperlocals.
See, so again, with digital marketing, the whole thing is that you can be very, very target specific. अगर आप Instagram के ad में डालो, तो you can talk about even the vicinity. So even a shop owner can say that I want to put this ad up within 5 kilometers radius or 10 kilometers radius. So whatever, the good thing with digital marketing is that if you're looking at maybe pockets in particular cities, that can also work. If you're talking about mass India reach, that can also work. If you're talking about certain cities as such, that can also work. So you can easily target it very, very specific to those consumers as well.
Thanks, Sampark. So we also have a question from Rohan. He's asking us how much can one rely upon data-driven marketing?
See, so it always has to be a combination of data and you as the individual who's sitting there reading that data. So data, yes, data is good, but you should know how to read that data. You should know how to use that data. And as startups also, it will always be a trial and error also. So always do A/B testing. Now, when we used to read data, etc. So what we would do is, okay, now I have 20,000 inactive consumers. Now, what kind of offer will run for either of them? So out of 20,000, 10,000, I will send one kind of an offer. 10,000, I will send another kind of an offer. That's how you do A/B testing. And then you realize, acha, this is the offer that works for reactivation. So the good thing with data is that you can always play around with it. And yes, it gives you a very deep insight. As I said, when I'm talking about my Ola days, I could look at data and say, okay, this customer only uses the service on weekends. That means when he's going out with family, he uses a cab. On weekdays, he's either going using his two-wheeler or going using public transport. So you can focus and you can push questions there. So you can rely on it, but again, you have to read it well.
Thanks a lot, Sampark. So we have also got questions around tier 3 cities. So one
Right.
of the very interesting question that we have is how can we target tier 3 cities in terms of a luxury or a premium product?
See, another mistake I'll tell you people make. People assume कि tier 3 में पैसे वाले लोग नहीं हैं. And I'll tell you in my experience of the last 1 year as a consultant, the best customers and the highest paying customers are out of tier 3 cities because those cities have a lot of money. They don't have the spending opportunity. So if you have a luxury product and you have a good product, you can easily go out there. There will be a lot of consumers who have a lot of money. How can you brand them or how can you target them? Look at a lot of these organizations like Rotary. You can talk about a lot of organizations which are networking groups. You reach out to them. You will find a lot of these bodies where people are there. A lot of these smaller towns have the club culture also. Now the metros, the club culture has gone, or you don't have or if you small towns, you have those colonies, etc. You have one particular club, etc., where everybody lines up. And the good thing is that there are very few of these options that are there. In a city like Bombay, you'll say, Arey, there are 15, 20 malls. Where should I market? In a lot of these small towns, there are barely 2 or 3 malls. So that is where you will find your customers and you can easily go and reach out to them.
Thanks a lot, Sampark. There were really some very great insights there. So one of the questions popped into my mind when you were presenting. So Sampark, when you spoke about cross branding, it sure gives us a lot of traction because we are utilizing the other brand's popularity as well. But I couldn't help but think, are we able to make real customer bases uniquely for our brand, as a lot of overlap is possible and maybe the new customers that we acquire just can be a one-time phenomena?
See, when you're talking about new customer acquisition, and as I said during my bonus pointers as well, marketing can get you the customer. Eventually it's your product's quality which is going to keep you there. So the branding part or the cross branding part, you being a startup, people don't know about you. So the moment you cross brand, a lot more customers are now aware, acha this brand is also there, acha chalo try kar dete hain. Try karne pe us product us customer ko wahan rakhna is the work of the quality that you're putting in. And trust me, a lot of startups make this mistake. As they go up, they lose touch with that quality. They get so focused on valuation and scaling up, they don't put those processes in. Always understand that before you scale up, before you expand, you need to become sustainable in whatever you're there. So you can get your consumers to cross branding, and if your product is good, people will stay and overlap. So that is where you cross brand accordingly, that you have very separate bases. So I remember in my Ola days, I've used products like I've tied up with Zomato and Swiggy, with a lot of restaurants, a lot of food chains, etc. Because again, anybody who's going to a restaurant needs a cab back home.
Yeah.
So that is how. And I remember doing campaigns in Calcutta with Calcutta police, with all the pubs. Because again, what is the police promoting? Don't drink and drive. What is the pub promoting? It's promoting more of drinking. What do I go do there? I said, okay, you go, you drink, but then I will book you a cab home. So see, so that overlap is there. So if you sit down and you think about it, you will find a very good complementary service that you can go and do marketing about.
Definitely, Sampark. Thank you so much for the insight, and it was really, really informative. So the next question was from Piyush. So he's asking us how to retain these customers that we initially get through promotions. Like you had said that our product quality has to be nice. What other factors play a role in this?
See, again, so you have to, once the customer is there, then you can use loyalty programs, you can use a lot of contests, you can use a lot of initiatives to get that frequency there as well. So you can talk about use the product 5 times, get your sixth free. Jet Airways, I spoke about Jet Privilege. It was one of the best campaigns from a best, I would say, loyalty programs. So even though Jet Airways is gone, Jet Privilege is still there, though it's got rebranded now. But you build up a loyalty program, you build up regular customer touch points, you build up that kind of initiatives where the frequency comes in. And then you look at a brand like Swiggy. Now, can you even imagine your life 3 years ago when Swiggy was not a part of your life? Yes, home delivery used to happen there, but today, are man nahi kar raha, chalo Swiggy se order karna. Today, even if you want to go anywhere, you need to book a cab. So once you've got people hooked, then it's a part of life. You can't let go.
Definitely, Sampark. That makes a lot of sense, and definitely it's quite true, and we see it every day happening with our own selves.
Right.
So, Sampark, we wanted to know more about you, and our viewers have requested us to ask you some of the questions about your journey. So, Sampark, what attracted you to sales, and what made you, so passionate about marketing? And could you please take us to the moment when you grew out to be one of the best LinkedIn influencers that we have?
Okay, now there are too many questions there. I'll answer one by one.
Yeah.
So if you talk about my journey as such, where did I realize that I wanted to get into sales and marketing? And that was, I would go back at least 15 years during my graduation days, where I was doing a part-time job in my colleges. So morning I used to go to college, evening I used to sell television in an electronic store. And it was absolutely gorgeous time where you realize that customer walking in, you realized how you convince him, and then when the customer gets convinced and he walks out, that gave you a different sense of an high. So that's where I realized that okay, this is something that I'm enjoying. So, and that's where when I went into MBA, I was very, very clear that I wanted to do marketing and sales. And while people say marketing and sales are very, very different, I will still say it's a strong, strong overlap. And a lot of students, and if students are here, they say, I don't want to do sales, I want to do marketing. Wrong approach. Do sales, go on the field, interact with customers, because till the time you spend time on the field, you do not realize the pulse of the customer. You don't realize the pain points. And that is where, if you've done sales and then you come back back to marketing, you are able to plan accordingly. Otherwise, a lot of people say, "Arey, they're sitting in AC offices making marketing plans." So there is, and even if you're doing marketing, you will always be asked numbers. Kitna sale hua hai? That numbering game will always come in. So there is a very, very strong overlap. So don't, I would say, don't say, "Arey, I don't want to do sales."
Definitely.
Karo. There's a different fun of closing sales and getting high. So that's the part there. Now coming to uh, the LinkedIn part of it. LinkedIn is a different. It's while that overlap is there of marketing. Here the product is you yourself. Here you are marketing yourself, and I tell everybody. I do a lot of sessions around LinkedIn, etc. as well, where I tell people does not matter what age you are at, networking is important, because today you might be working with the organization, tomorrow you might not be. Today you have a business, tomorrow you might not have that business. COVID has proven job security is a myth. So the biggest brand and the only brand that you have is your name. So the brand Shivangi has is brand Shivangi. That's the only brand which will go till her deathbed. So that's where using these very same things for you as a brand. And trust me, when you make yourself a brand, then business flows in, jobs flow in. In the lockdown itself, I've got at least 5 job offers without even looking for jobs out of LinkedIn. So, so that's where it becomes important. And as I got active on LinkedIn, I realized that okay, this is something that is very, very important, and that's where I've been training a lot of people around building their personal brand as well. So while I work with businesses on consulting them on marketing, start sales, etc. How do you build your brand up? I also help individuals in building this personal brand as well, and career mentorship also.
That's really incredible, Sampark. So, this brings me to the next question that our students have been asking on our platform very frequently. So, they have asked us, what does it actually take to make it in sales and marketing? Is it a career only meant for extroverts?
Absolutely not. See, हाँ, लोगों को लगता है ज्यादा बात करता तो सेल्स में होना चाहिए. I'll tell you, the more I've done over 700 interviews in all these years. When I said, I used to ask people, I said, why do you want to be in sales? Because I love talking. Guys, that is not why you are in sales. Loving to talk is not why you are here. The point is, marketing and sales is about us understanding the customer. And trust me, the ones who talk less make the best salesmen, because sales is not about talking. Sales is about listening. Sales is about letting your customer talk. Sales is about letting him share his problems, learnings, etc. Problem कहाँ होती है when you talk about the so-called talkative people is एक sales pitch learn की, they go there, पूरी की पूरी sales pitch निकाल दी. अरे understand customer को वो point product चाहिए क्यों? The point is, when you ask questions, when you let your customer speak, you find that small cue. Acha, this is where he has a problem. You tweak your pitch in such a way that you hit the nail on the head. And so, to answer your question, the introverts make the best sales guys.
That's incredible, Sampark. And I think even I have noticed that in my personal journey as well.
Right.
So, Sampark, with this, we have come to the end of the session today. But before we wrap our session, I wanted to ask you one last question. It's something related to a recent incident we saw in the industry. A brand should definitely be responsive to their customers, and in certain situations, when there is a huge divide in the views of the audience, maybe half of them want A and half of them want B. So, based on what factors should a brand take a call?
See, as a brand, you have to be very, very objective, right? I have always believed in do what is right. Okay? Even be it a brand as a there, or you're talking about a personal brand on LinkedIn also. If you feel that yes, there is an error, accept it. People are more than forgiving. If you genuinely made a mistake, it's okay. But if you feel that it is just a hue and cry for the heck of it, because that's also a problem. A lot of people just create things out of nothing. So if you feel that it's just provoking you as a brand, ignore. But if you feel that there is genuinely something that could have been better, accept feedback. So I tell people there are two kinds of feedback. One is constructive feedback, one is provocative feedback. If it is constructive feedback, take it, accept your mistake, correct it, and move ahead. People will be very, very happy to accept honest mistakes. If it is provocative feedback, which a lot of people do just to provoke you and to get an answer or a result, ignore it, move ahead. Nobody cares, nobody bothers.
Definitely, Sampark. So I really think that we had an incredibly informative session today. And startups now make a significant part of the recruiters as well who come on campus on in these B schools. So if a person wants to make a career in marketing, it is actually very important to know the nuances of this business. So thank you so much, Sampark, for taking our time and sharing your views with us. It was really, really amazing. And the insights that you shared, I'm sure will help our students and it will take them a long way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shivangi. I want everybody who's watching just to give a small one-word feedback in the chat as well, so that we know if they've learned from there as well. And thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to all of you.
Thanks, Sampark. To all our viewers, I'm Shivangi signing off for today. We'll be back soon with another episode of Industry Paathshaala. So do make sure that you are subscribed. Till then, take care and have fun. Thank you. We'll be back soon with another episode.